module, as you know, is called the Islandora Whole Object module, and I wrote it a couple of years ago when I was learning about how Islandora 8 works. So I wrote it for myself, but it's a standard Islandora or Drupal 8/9 module, so anyone can use it, and I'd be happy to hear your feedback on it if you find it useful. So all this module does is provide 6 standard Drupal blocks. You can add more blocks if people want different content in the blocks there, and maybe that could be a conversation for the Q&A. And what each block does is expose a specific attribute or facet, not the search facet, just a different kind of view on specific kind of content within each content of the object of the Drupal node and or files and media. And I'm going to show you each of those 6 here. So this is a standard image content or Islandora model, Islandora object, screen snapshot from the 2001: A Space Odyssey film. And I have configured the blocks that this module provides, and they're down below, and we'll go through each one quickly. Keep in mind that this module, the blocks that this module offers are not intended for anonymous users. They're not intended for general users. They're really intended for site builders, metadata specialists, people who want to see different views of a node, because the information is presented in a very nerdy way, and that's intentional because the information is kind of just dumped in this raw format, except for one exception, which I'll explain. However, because they are standard Drupal blocks, you can configure them however you like. So if you want a certain role of user to say QA specialist, something like that nature, to see these blocks, you simply configure the blocks to let users of that role see them. Again, standard Drupal blocks, nothing magical there or special. It's the content that is specific to Islandora, and I'll start going through that now. So again, this is just a standard kind of demo object. It's got an image, and it's got a couple of metadata fields there that are completed. The first block is the Solar document, the Solar metadata for this object. And I did this because I had no idea when I started looking into this, I had no idea how Solar and Islandora in Drupal 8 worked. And this, I wrote this block so that I could see the kind of raw JSON field labels and values in Solar, so I could better understand when I tweaked some Solar settings, how that impacted the Solar document, and therefore the indexing and search and retrieval in Islandora. This particular block, again, it's not meant to be, not made to be or meant to be pretty. It is a raw dump, because the primary object or purpose of this module is kind of like, peering into the underbelly of each object. That's something that a metadata specialist or a site admin who's troubleshooting would want to do. This particular block was inspired by a feature in Islandora 7 provided by the Islandora 7 Islandora metadata extras module, which reveals in the same way the Islandora 7 Solar document for an object. And has proven to be very useful at Fraser, and I know that a lot of other sites use that as well. And this is what this is, but in an Islandora 8 context. I'm not going to go through this because it's just a raw dump of Solar, but as you can see, it does expose the Solar field names and the values exactly as they're represented in Solar when you ask for those values via JSON. So that's the first block. The next 3 blocks, and again, these are just ordered the way I chose to order them. They're standard blocks. You can order them however you want or put them wherever you want in the node display. The next 3 blocks are each contains a representation of the RDF values for the current node from 3 different sources. In Islandora 8, we have in Drupal, Drupal manages the JSON LD, BlazeGraph manages a version of that RDF, and so does Fedora, depending on how you configured your Islandora site, of course. At a minimum, you're going to have the Drupal RDF, the JSON LD RDF. The other 2 are kind of optional, I guess. But this first block, Drupal RDF, this is the JSON LD version of a representation of the RDF. This is the only one that is not raw. This is a table, an HTML table, just because the other 2, which you'll see in a minute, are kind of human readable. But I personally found that JSON LD is not human readable, despite Don, the example that Don just gave us about the translated node RDF by JSON LD. It's just hard to parse. So this table kind of prettifies it for human consumption. And as you can see, here's that language attribute that I was talking about on the right-hand side. This is a standard node that hasn't been translated. Properties, the corresponding values, and all, so this is just basically a prettified version of the JSON LD for this given node. The next block here is the version of the representation of RDF that is stored in Fedora. As the Fedora object, and this is in a format called Turtle. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's just one of the many ways of representing or serializing RDF, and I just asked for the Turtle version of the RDF from Fedora, and this is it. This is like literally the raw version as it's given to me by Fedora, and the values of these properties should the values of the properties should be the same as they are in the JSON LD. But this is just another representation if you're curious about what this object looks like in Fedora. This is it in Turtle. And the third one that I'll show you is BlazeGraph's version of the RDF, which is in N triples. And this is just another, again, another representation or serialization of the RDF for this object in a different serialization. The next block is one that I had a little bit of fun with. This block represents the current object. In this case, the current object is Howard Johnson's Earthlight room. That's the current one we're looking at. But this particular block shows the parent, like if Howard Johnson's Earthlight room is a member of something, it'll show it here. In this case, it shows that it's a member of the film stills collection. And if the current object, Howard Johnson's Earthlight room, has any children, that is to say, it has members, it shows them here. If there were more than 4 members, like if this was a collection object, if there are 4 members, then it would be a more link instead of 1,000 children. And just to show how this works, I'll click on film stills collection, get that node, and if I scroll down, I'll get the same blocks. And here is the current object's parents and children block for this one. Has no parent. The film stills collection is not a member of anything. It's at the highest level in the repo, but it has one member, Howard Johnson's Earthlight. So that's kind of one way of representing the location of that object and its kind of collection membership hierarchy. The last block I'll show you is kind of similar. It's similar to what you get when you click on the standard media tab in an Islandora object in Drupal 8, Islandora 8. But this is really about the files, not about the object, not about the media. And it reveals information that is not available by default in the view that powers the media tab in the Islandora 8 object. In this case, we have the media name, but we then have the URI of the file where it's stored. In this case, they're all stored in my public file system. I don't have anything in Fedora in this case. MIME type, last modified, and the file hash in case you want to have that. So that's it. That's all this module does. It just provides these blocks that show, these facets or these aspects, the representations of the current object in various ways. Mainly for troubleshooting purposes. You might want to expose this one, the current object's parent and children, to end users. Who knows? It could be one way of representing a compound object. That's all the module does. And if anyone has any ideas about what else they'd like to see, like what other representations of an object they'd want to see that we can represent somehow, I'd be happy to hear that suggestion. So that's the end of my demo.